Let's get the superficial out of the way, shall we? We were just discussing that once again a politician has shown actually how difficult it is to appear on television. People always assume everyone on TV, you know, it's just easy, but actually he looks quite uncomfortable there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the most natural performance. Quite stilted, quite jolting at points, and it does seem that almost every single line he says has been focus grouped to the hilt, and indeed it looks like there were many different cuts throughout that clip, filmed quite a while ago, I understand, filmed last year in order to come out just last night. But it does seem like this has undergone some pretty heavy chopping and changing in the edit process to try and get that fine-tuned message. That message that we all have now heard so many times on halving inflation, growing the economy, reducing debt, cutting waiting lists and stopping the boats. I have now committed these 5
And you did it more dynamically.
to memory, and I think we'll all be saying them for a very long time to come.
Do you think it was a missed opportunity here, Norman Baker, because we'd have the legislation in the Commons, resisted by the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, to ensure the unions have to provide a minimum level of service in certain essential services like trains and the NHS. You didn't mention it.
Well, if Tom's right and he recorded this last year, that's, to my mind, quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, a week is a long time in politics, as Harold Wilson said a very long time ago. And that sounded out of touch. That sounded like a default broadcast that you might put together without knowing what the circumstances of the world are.
Interesting. OK, so if it had been focus grouped to the max, I mean, there is the question if it was deliberate, the omission of the strikes, or as Norman says, it just actually because it was out of date.
Yes, no, I understand it was filmed quite some time ago.
But why, Tom? Why would you not do it right up to date? You're in a new year with new challenges. Why would you do
These things
that
don't take long anymore. Trust me, you work in television. You can whip that out in a day.
I suppose one of the arguments, and I haven't had great in-depth conversations with people in Number 10 about this, beyond just the fact that this was filmed some time ago, I suppose the timing, the demands on the Prime Minister's time, we have heard this week, of course, he's needed to take a plane to get to, Leeds.
An RAF jet or something.
Rather than just taking a train like anyone else. Clearly, Number 10 believe that the Prime Minister's time is of the highest, is under the highest sort of pressure. And yesterday, of course, he was meeting the Japanese Prime Minister, showing him around the Tower of London, doing joint press conferences. The head of any G7 country has got a lot of pressures on their time.
Which segues perfectly onto the next question, which is about private healthcare and whether or not he uses that. I mean, do we really find it so shocking if our Prime Minister, who has such a demand on his time, needs to use the private sector? Why can't he use them? Why is that an issue?
Well, the bizarre thing is, of course, the President of the United States has his own private physician living in the White House. The President of France has a team of 4 on-hand private medical practitioners at the Élysée Palace. It is a little bit odd that the Prime Minister of this country has to sort of queue with everyone else. I would have thought that there's perhaps a need for government to roll on in a slightly different way, perhaps. But clearly, Rishi Sunak has taken the decision that he needs to be queuing with everyone else in order to run the NHS properly. I think that's somehow supposed to be the argument.